Welcome to the Hacking Your Health podcast with Ben Canning and Dave Kennedy. Two guys heading out to hack body, mind, business, and beyond. We are here to provide a single source, bullshit-free guide to understanding your body and how you can live better for longer.
Yo, what's up, everybody? We're in person. It's Ben.
I'm Dave.
And the Hacking Your Health podcast.
Special hat edition.
Special hat in Dave's office.
Hat in Dave's office.
Edition.
Yeah.
What's up, dude?
It's going to be awkward here at first because we're like looking at the screen, but we're sitting right next to each other, so we're going to have to figure this out. But we wanted to do a podcast in person, and we just had Denver last week, which I have to say was probably one of the best experiences of my life. Had such a good time with all of that. But no, it was, we'll get into the stories there, but Ben's in town in Cleveland, Ohio for a little bit, and we're having some fun. You're going to be going to Cedar Point tomorrow for the first time, actually riding some legit roller coasters.
So if I die, this will be the last episode of the podcast.
The last episode of the podcast.
But hopefully I don't.
No. Yeah. Well, let's recap Denver. So I'll get into my story. I won't go into all of the colonoscopy or colonic details that I'll skip everybody the drama there. But what'd you think?
Truthfully, I feel like I sat in the airport on Saturday trying to, like, I guess, decompress and, like, have a bit of an understanding of, like, what the fuck just happened. And I don't really feel like I've fully gotten there yet, but in terms of, like, the event, the travel, I mean, I feel like it was pretty much a success overall. I got in with Ryan on Friday evening. Him and I hung out for a couple of days. We filmed some content. We hung out with Jason. We hung out with Daniel. We went to check into the bigger Airbnb on Monday. Everybody started to arrive, and it was just so good to see everybody so happy to see each other again. At that point, you'd already disappeared. It was cool to see people who had been there before, who had been in a situation, who had met each other before, but also how welcoming everybody was to new faces, because I think it's quite a daunting situation to come in and have committed to staying in a house with 20 people.
Yeah. I'm actually, I don't like actually doing that. So, like, for me, I like having my own kind of space and being away from people and being able to decompress. And, you know, we'll get into the story of what happened with me, but, you know, I generally enjoyed being there with everybody else and the team and, you know, seeing everybody's happiness, success, struggles, you know, all that stuff was really incredible. So I'm in the same boat. You know, I actually enjoyed being in a room full of, you know, 20 guys or 30 guys or whatever it was. So this was great.
Yeah, but I think I feel like we're still very early on in doing these events. Like the first one was obviously over here last March. And I think the difference between it and everybody staying in hotels and the difference of staying in the Airbnb when we were in Nashville was night and day in terms of like the relationships that were built with people. Yeah. So I think that's definitely a better way to do it, to have like a space for everybody to be in. But yeah, the same, like I like my own space, and I feel like the majority of the people who are there like their own space as well. So being able to spend and hang out with everybody is quite good. We did 2 days worth of training, which again was so good to just see people push each other, people motivate each other, people hitting PRs. I had Adam there, shout out to him, because I definitely don't think I could have managed everybody without him. He was doing a powerlifting clinic, and I could tell that there was a lot of people that were a little bit like daunted by the big weights and the bars and like afraid, because powerlifting's a scary word. But he made everybody feel comfortable. The majority of people hit PRs across the board, at least in one of the lifts. And it was cool to see like people be excited to have done something that they didn't know they could do. I took a couple of sessions around the gym. We did Top Golf and shit shirt night.
We all wear crazy shirts. Yeah.
I think it was a good feature.
It was
a good feature.
Yeah. You know me, I like bringing attention to myself, so I'm glad I was actually sick when that all happened. So.
I have the photo of you in your shit shirt.
Oh, good.
Yes, we did that on the Tuesday. Wednesday morning we got up early. We did the walk in the Garden of the Gods, which was very cool. We got up for sunrise. So there's plenty of footage of that. Then Wednesday was pretty much a free day for everybody. So a couple of people went and did go-kart racing. A couple of people went to do some other hikes. I fluffed about, did some work, hung out around the Airbnb, and then we went to play whirly ball, which you joined us then.
I was alive. I was back to the land of the living, kind of, at that point.
The
I was definitely my competitive came back.
Definitely there. So we went to whirly ball, which was an experience because it's not something I have ever.
I just have to say that I played whirly ball like 30 times already, so there was a bit of an advantage there, obviously.
You didn't tell me that.
I told you that, didn't I?
No.
Oh, I played whirly ball I've been playing volleyball for like 15 years.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of other people had never even heard of it, including myself. It was a recommendation of Ryan. He had been to a bachelor party and played. For anybody who has not played, it's a mixture between dodgems, like bumper cars, and lacrosse and basketball type thing. It was a lot of fun trying to actually navigate the. Right?
Yeah, I'm just making sure the sound's going through. That's all.
Trying to navigate the steering of the thing was probably the most difficult part, but it was a lot of fun. And Thursday, back at the gym, I surprised everybody with like a 30-minute finisher at the end, which they didn't thank me for at the start, but they were very thankful for at the end. Did an open Q&A, went back to the Airbnb on the Thursday. I went and spent some time in Whole Foods and got enough steak to feed 25 people. I made tacos, which went down very well. I think there was a lot of people who didn't actually believe that I was able to cook, so they were pleasantly surprised for whatever reason. And then on Friday we got up early and we went and did the Manitou Incline, which, I mean, for me it was a challenge, but I hadn't just done 2 days of pretty intense training. Everybody made it. It was a struggle for sure, but it was cool to see everybody sort of come together, witness each other, make sure that there was nobody left behind, and some incredible footage and views taken at the top. And then Friday evening, Jason hosted us for a barbecue, which was very kind of him. So we went to his house, we took over, we had some steaks and we had some chicken and just hung out, and it was a very cool week. It was cool to see. I mean, I feel like I've been talking about it for quite some time.
You have, but I mean, it's for those that are listening that may not know what we're talking about. What we're trying to build here, not just from a podcast perspective or community or things else, is really a tribe of people that uplift each other and help each other through difficult times, positive times, and everything else. So if you're in a Discord server, obviously we're always responding back to folks. The community is definitely helping out. The podcasts are obviously our experiences and what we're sharing. But a few times a year, Ben will hold for the folks that he's training, both in the Hacks program and the BC FAM program, which are kind of two different types of programs that Ben runs. Everybody can kind of come through to these events and come together in a location. So last time it was you did one in Munich, right? And then the one that I was at last time was in Nashville. And they're just incredible events. The first one we actually held was in Cleveland. Then it was Nashville. And it's great to see old faces, new faces, and folks really that you talk to every day on Discord and get to hang out with, but understand their personalities, their struggles, and where they're coming with. Because at the end of the day, we've talked about this on the podcast. If you're part of a tribe that believes in you, uplifts you, and you're continuously working to better each other, these are the things that really help you be successful. And there's plenty of studies out there that show when you have other people with you that believe in you, that uplift you from a positivity perspective, even when you're struggling, your chances of success are substantially increased and greater, both from a mental state and motivational perspective. And so these events are, I just want to give, I talk to Ben every single day. Literally, I think Aaron's on the other side here, so I want to say it's really low, but I'm pretty sure I talk to Ben before I talk to my wife every morning, so I'm just going to say that really low here. But we talk every day, and the amount of effort that Ben puts into these types of events, I mean, he's continuously spinning wheels on how to make it better, how to make it awesome, learning lessons from time before, how to improve the programs, how to get more efficient with things, to make it easier on people. And I can honestly say, and I'll go into my story here really quick, the first day I got there was Monday, and it was kind of a culmination of events. So I had a little bit of a later flight, and I was getting in, I think, around 12:30 Denver time, and so I had enough time to go to Orange Theory in the morning. So I went to Orange Theory, but I was really cut short on the amount of time I had to get to Denver, and so I went to Orange Theory, and I didn't properly hydrate. I just had a protein shake, and I really should have slammed a couple bottles of water, but I didn't. went straight to the airport. I literally got to my boarding gate as they were boarding, so I didn't have anything to drink there. I got on the plane and they served a meal, which was basically cold roast beef, which should have been indicator number one to stay away from cold roast beef. Like it was just like literally a slab of roast beef. I'm like, oh, sweet protein, that's good for me. Protein. And so I ate that, and again, I didn't have anything to drink, and I kind of just conked out and fell asleep for the rest of the flight. So I was extremely dehydrated, and when I landed, it's about an hour and 15 minute or so drive to get to the ranch. I could call it a ranch. It's a massive compound out in the middle of nowhere in Denver, which is amazing. And had gotten there, and again, I hadn't had anything to drink then. So my first drink basically of the day was already like 14 hours into the day after I'd already done 2 hours or an hour of HIIT training. So I was extremely dehydrated. And then what ended up happening is I ordered something from Tropical Cafe. It was a smoothie and a wrap. I started hydrating then, but as soon as I ate like half the wrap, I just buckled over in immediate pain. And what had happened was I'd gotten food poisoning from the roast beef on the plane. And then I was super dehydrated, which caused some massive constipation. So basically, this food that was poisoning my stomach was stuck in my stomach for 3 days. So I spent 2 days in the emergency room, probably full of morphine. They gave me fentanyl, which I was like, oh shit, that doesn't sound good. And, that doesn't seem right. And as he's injecting, I'm like, is this gonna like make me like one of those fentanyl people? Like I don't know anything about this stuff, so I need to. But I'm
in pain, so give me it.
But I'm in pain. I'm like, it was honestly worst pain I've ever experienced in my entire life. I was in a very miserable state. I didn't sleep for 3 days. I didn't eat for 3 days. I didn't drink anything for 3 days. I couldn't even stomach anything because what had happened is that the food was so backed up in my stomach that if I'd eat anything, I just have to throw it up because there's no room in my stomach because it wasn't moving. So it was a miserable 3 days. And, what was really awesome to see then was, the care that everybody had for me during that period of time and the concern. I think Boyd must have messaged me 30 times. You messaged me 30 times. Aaron obviously messaged me, all the time. But I think the first day, I spent 11 hours in the ER. Second day, I spent around 9 hours in the ER. Third day, finally had a little bit of a breakthrough. I was at listen, I'll just be honest. I was a last-ditch effort. I was like, I got to do something because this is the third day I've been experiencing Richter 10 scale pain, so I went and got a colonic. I never had one before in my life, and I'm not going to go into great detail of my experience with that, but that seemed to have turned the tide for me and started to actually feel a lot better about 2 hours after that, and I was actually able to make it out the third day to go out to Whirly Ball with everybody. I actually ate some food, which was the first time in 3 days. It was funny because when I was driving home from the colonic, I'm like, I really, really want some French fries right now. And so I went and got some Wendy's French fries and I only ate like 7 of them just to be safe. And I felt good. And from there, I've been pretty much on the rebound, which has been good. But I missed pretty much the entire thing, which I was really disappointed in. But I was still great to come downstairs, see the folks from time to time, and then see the excitement from everybody. Obviously, Whirly Ball was great, but again, going on these events, for me, obviously I've been with Ben for over 3 years, and we'll be another 3 years after that, another 3 years after that, and we're probably gonna just die together. It'll be fine. So, but these events for me are great ways of remembering where I came from, because you see a lot of new faces coming and they're kind of just starting off, but also the journey and success that all of these other folks that they've had, and where my motivation really comes from. So I came out of this very motivated again. And it's not that I wasn't motivated before, but it's like a whole new leaf, right? You come out of there energized, you're feeling great about yourself, great from the community, and it's kind of like a refresh or like a rebirth, for lack of a better term, of how you feel about where you're at your fitness journey and where you want to go. So even though I wasn't there physically, I was definitely there in spirit, and I could tell you, everybody, you could see the testimonials from all the folks that were there. Life-changing events, friendships forged, people, absolutely motivated in life, and being able to really take it to the next level. I think it was such a successful event, and the way you space things out. I think in Nashville we lifted for like 4 days solid. And that was exhausting.
It's lessons in doing them back to back too. The first one we did here, the lesson was not to do just one-to-one sessions, because I feel like everybody traveled that way. They only got an hour session, so the lesson was that. Then we did the group training. The lesson from Nashville was to make sure everybody stays in an Airbnb and not have everything so packed in, because
Yeah.
by that fourth session on the second day in Nashville, people were just like, nah,
I was tapped out. Yeah.
So having that sort of day in between, I think, was definitely crucial. There are a lot of lessons from this one, and I have to shout out Jason, because he's like, I'm going to write that down. He said, I'll just send it to you all at the end of all the lessons. So hopefully that will allow the next one to be even bigger and better. I don't
know how you can make it even better, because I mean the events at night.
Challenge accepted.
Please do, because I mean, again, I missed Topgolf. I would have beaten you guys' ass. I've been practicing.
I got like
but
10 times.
Oh my god, I would have got 11 for sure. But Topgolf the first one night, the Whirly Ball the other night. Just the sightseeing, and what was cool about it too is when you broke up the training, you're still doing things that were active, right? You're going out hiking, seeing nature, that mental aspect of it as well, right? Being one with nature and kind of taking in your surroundings, but there with friends that you can joke around with. So it all seemed like it was such a perfect event, and the house was amazing. It was huge. Had a hot tub outside. The back area was just the mountains of Denver. Just a really scenic area that I'll remember that, even though I spent most of it on the toilet. So
whatever round has the edit, I'll get on the send. You can watch it back. What really happened?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's about a lot of things. It's about, like you said, people that we speak to all the time. Like I obviously speak to these people, day in, day out, but even within the chat, and them sort of seeing each other's progress. So I'll take Mike for example. Like you remember Mike whenever he was in Cleveland versus Mike that you saw.
Oh
last
my
week,
God,
like night and day
incredible.
Difference. David Boyd, like from
Boyd. Hey, Dave, if you're listening to the podcast, oh my God, my thing just went out. It's fine. Boyd, if you're listening to the podcast, incredible transformation, my friend. You look absolutely fantastic, and I'm a little bit jealous of the definition of your shoulders. So I'll have to.
We're going to rewrite Dave's program after this. Just
going to be shoulders every day. Every day shoulders.
Yeah, but even
and calves.
Yeah. But even the newer faces that came in, and I know that there was a little bit of like nervous excitement around people, because they're like, they hear us talking about these events, but like, what the fuck does that actually mean? Do you know what I mean? Like, what's actually going to happen? And especially with the sort of more challenging outdoor stuff like that, Manatee Incline is no joke. I think it's 2,768 steps from top to bottom, and you go up like 2,000 feet of elevation in like an hour. So even that alone, and like whenever I say steps, some of them are like this and some of them are like this. So it's not just like you're walking up a flight of stairs. So seeing people do that, challenge themselves with that, and sort of make it to the top, like it is, yes, about the training, and it is about the competitiveness, and it is about the community, but it's also about doing stuff that like will help you see you can do things beyond what you think you can do. And being able to bring people together, like there was a moment, and I did the post about it, and I'm not a person that really reflects on this, but there was a moment that we were all sitting, a couple of times it did happen, but the first one I remember we were all sitting in the Noodles place. I have to shout out Noodles as well, because they provided us for lunch on the Tuesday. Everybody had arrived, they were sitting there, and I was coming late because I was with Ryan and somebody else. So ordered, sat up, and everybody was like sat down, and I was sitting on a slightly higher table, and I looked around, and it was just like everybody, not even in their groups that they were training with, but like spread amongst each other. So it wasn't like they'd formed like crews or cliques, like everybody was with everybody, and just enjoying lunch and sort of catching up about the morning and whatever else. Like I sort of was like, fucking hell, this is quite a lot of people, like to turn up to an event because I decided I wanted to host it. So it was rewarding for me in that sense, and I think there is, like I keep like saying locations and saying things, and everyone's like, I'm in. So like even plans for future events for even up until the end of next year, like there's plenty to come.
Cleveland, Ohio again. Let's do it.
I genuinely do think that we should do one.
I mean, you could. I mean, I'm sure Old School Iron would love.
That's what I was. Yeah, because I was talking to Kev Cody. Like maybe we could get
Cedar Point would be also. I mean, like you could do like a Cedar Point break. There's Kalahari, which is a water park.
Old School Iron. We're going to do Cedar Point.
There's a water park here. There's amazing. By the way, the towpath here for hiking is the best. Like it's. Anyways,
okay.
So yeah,
we're going to
Cleveland, Ohio. You're here first.
But yeah, but being able, like number one, being able to do them, being able to bring everybody together, but also an opportunity for other people to see other parts of the country. So Thomas, whenever I went in on the Monday night, and I was like, I had to carefully put the order of the questions in. So I was like, right, who wants to do the Garden of the Gods for sunrise? And everyone was like, yeah. Hands up was like, okay, we're leaving at 4:30, and everyone was like, what the But obviously we had to do it to get there in time. But like Thomas was like, no, I'm in. Like that's a bucket list thing to do and tick off. So like giving people the opportunity to do things that they necessarily wouldn't be able to or make the time to. So it's cool. It's cool for, you know, the people like Jason and Brandon that sort of helped out with the location scouting and stuff like that, for them to show off where they live. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, there's a lot of pride goes into that as well. So there's a lot of different elements to it. There's a lot of different putting it together, and it's actually more so the past 3 weeks beforehand, like the finer details and the like nuts and bolts of it all. I actually really enjoyed putting that together, because it's another part of my job that's not, you know, the day to day.
And I hope you know, all the folks on the VC fam and Hacks and the whole crew really recognize the amount of time and effort that goes into planning something like, I mean, the finest details. I mean, the handouts that you had that had, you know, supplement samples to your own little badge that, you know, showed who you were, you know, nice and printed out and designed. You know, the flags, obviously, which everybody yanked one. I wasn't able to get one, damn it. But you know, just the thought that went into literally every aspect of this, I thought was really incredible. You're such an amazing planner like that, and I think that's also helped on the training side, because you're never satisfied with where you're at, right? And I think that's a lot of what we talk about in your fitness journey, is that it's a never-ending journey as well, right? You should never be happy with status quo, right? You always want to get better with what you're doing, or improve in some way, shape, or form with whatever you're doing. And you're very much that way with you know, the Hacks and the BC program, as well as what you plan into this. I mean, every day I'd get something new, like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, and what do you think? And I'm like,
but the thing about it is, I didn't want to tell you everything as well. But I'm an excitable person whenever it comes to
no, I'm the same way. Like it's crazy that I had a top secret government clearance, because I just want to tell everybody everything. So, but obviously I couldn't on that one. But I'm the same way. If I get excited about something, I'm like, Aaron, listen, I bought you this amazing gift for your birthday in a month, and it's this. You know, like. But
I can't tell you about it.
Well, no, I'll tell her about it, because I'm so excited. But no, but
I did find that a bit hard, because I wanted to share, because it was me putting things together, and I sort of told a couple of people a couple of things, but I wanted the reaction, the excitement whenever everybody was there.
Be able to see it, right?
I think that one thing that whenever I was making dinner for everybody, on number one, I'm a bit of a control freak, so I didn't let anybody else, bar Kev, Cody, use the grill to do anything. But one thing I really realized was a lot of the, I guess, planning and attention to detail thing comes from my mum. Like, I saw my mum and myself when I was doing that. I was like, Mum has planned parties and done things like this all the time, like the attention to detail and making sure everybody's looked after. Like, that 100% comes from my mum, and doing parties like that. And, you know, with the small sandwiches, like,
small sandwiches.
she's in with the details on that.
I'm all about small sandwiches.
And I guess a realization I had is, you know, it goes back to that, like, everything you've done in your life leads you to this point. So everything, whether it's any job that I had before, any experience, like, all of those things combined allow me to do these things, because it's, I guess, ingrained or a part of who I am in it.
Yeah, and another special shout out to Kev Cody, man. He looks fantastic as well. I mean, again, the transformations of these folks, you know, because what Kevin and Mike / Todd and Boyd, I mean, they've been with you for how long?
Well, Kev Cody comes up to his year.
Has it only been a year for him? Really?
Yeah.
I feel like I've known him for like 10 years now, it feels like.
Yeah. Same with Mike. Like, Mike, I think, joined Todd.
Todd, don't say Mike.
Yeah. Like 4 or 5 weeks before we had the first event. Okay. And that was only in April last year, which, I mean, I don't know about you, but I can't believe that was only last year. I was thinking,
I can't believe
it was only 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, all these.
I mean, it's night and day, you know, body comp wise. And one of the things that it's funny, because, you know, Kev is probably 2 years behind me, right, when it comes to timing of how long. So he's been here for a year. And it's funny because I think he just went on a recent bulk cycle, right? Mm-hmm. And it's funny because you could see the layers of untrusting himself to trusting himself to having the success, just like I went through. And it's these small processes that you see these folks come through. And then when they start to have that success and excitement and the consistency, and start to enjoy and start to see that, hey, you know, we can control every aspect of what we do, right? It's just a matter of understanding ourselves, our weaknesses, our strengths, and then putting us into a system that works for everybody. So it's a different system for everybody, but, you know, a system that works for you. And it's been awesome to see just the transformations of all these folks. Jason, I mean, what an amazing individual human being. Such a compassionate person. I've really gotten to enjoy to meet him. And I'm really so bummed because there's so many good people in that group that I really just didn't get to spend a lot of time with, just because I was upstairs, you know, pooping all the time. But, well, not pooping, unfortunately. I wish I was pooping all the time. But anyways, sorry, too much information. But, you know, I want to develop more relationships with these folks, because our tribe, right? It's the folks that we work with, day in and day out. We talk to, we share our experiences and work through, and I think that's so fundamentally important to any of this. I don't know how. I'm interested. Like when I first joined you, I was the only guy in the group, and it was like 11 women or 15 women or something like that. But they were so amazing from a support group perspective, right? And I don't know if I would have been as successful in my journey if I didn't have them as a support team as well. I mean, obviously, I have you, but we weren't even friends then. We're just kind of learning each other, and well, I mean, it's not like you're best friends. I mean, now we're best friends, but
I think the thing, because somebody asked me, I had a call with somebody earlier on, and they asked me, did I find being online more difficult than being one, or what the different challenges were? And I think, well, the one thing that came to mind was the benefit of being online, not from a me perspective, but from an everyone else perspective, is the community. Now, obviously, I could have had the group chat and whatever else before, but the support that comes from within the community and what they provide for each other, like any initial call, discovery call, sales call, like it's one of the things that I always make sure that I say, like it's not necessarily something that I have to sell. All I did was put everybody in the Discord channel, but what comes from the people, and like everybody's so welcome with new people. Like you said, everybody's at a different stage in the journey. Like you're saying, like Kev Cody, like we did the bulk cycle and we did a mini cut, and he was like, it's good to know that works. I'm like, yeah, I know, right? But that's the trust thing in the process. So having all these people that, like you said, are 2 weeks, 2 years, whatever it is, in everybody sees something in the other person that they once struggled or went through themselves, and I think that's the biggest part of it, because they can speak from their. Yes, I can guide them as a coach and give them, my expertise and guide them sort of down the direction that I think they should go. But for some of the people, like, oh yeah, I went through this 2 months ago. This is what I was struggling with. This is how I came over it. Like, it's more real world, like same situation, people going through the same sort of stuff, and what they can provide for each other, I think, is absolutely invaluable within the group. And I would say two things. Number one, there was definitely a lot of FOMO going on of people who were not there. Yeah. And the second thing is, it was so good to see everybody fully commit. So on the first night, once we came back from the from the vitamin shop and everybody got their supplements, we had dinner. I had the Diary of a CEO conversation cards. You missed that bit too. But essentially, anybody's ever heard me talk about the Diary of a CEO, if you've never listened to it, at the end of every episode, the guest on the previous episodes had left a question for the guest that's on that episode. Stephen never knows what the questions are, and they ask the question. They put them in like a box about this size, and it's all the cards, and like they're pretty deep, like they're tough questions to ask or to answer. So basically I paired everybody up completely randomly, like people that I knew would never have spoken to each other, new people who'd been about before, like whatever, and give them all a card, and got them, I don't want to say the term icebreaker, but got them to have those difficult conversations, because I wanted to sort of set the tone as to like, if you're here to like show up and go all in, and like whatever happens, don't sort of shy away. And the reason that came about was I sort of recognized that myself a couple of times whenever I go to events. I'm like, I'm just there, but I'm like this guy in the corner, like on my phone, not paying attention. Whereas if you fully commit, you obviously get so much more from it. So sort of setting the tone with that definitely helped, and it was good to sort of see when I grouped everybody off, like they were willing to help, they were willing to go the extra mile, to do the extra reps, support whoever they were working with. Like I feel like they got a lot more from it because they fully committed to actually showing up and being there. And I think that's often a hard thing to do, because it's easy to just fade into the background and things. Yeah,
I could see the excitement on everybody's faces every time I went down there, and I was up for 3 days straight, so I didn't sleep at all. So I could see the people that are first coming out for the day, people that were the last to go to bed, and you could see the relationships being forged. You could see the excitement for the next days. You could see the learning that went through all of this as well. And again, I think a hugely successful event. From the parts that I was involved in, it was some of the best times that I can recall in a very long time. And I'm obviously very sad that I didn't get to hang out with everybody, but obviously circumstances were different. But it just seemed like everybody had such a great time. I mean, you saw the feedback from Jason, from Chris, from from Todd,
Kev,
from everybody. I mean, everybody just really started to click with everybody else, and just kind of their journeys and reflect back. And it's funny, like we were lifting yesterday, which us getting it together and lifting is just a recipe for disaster. But
I had fun.
I had fun too, but I'm definitely feeling it.
Good.
Yeah, at the point there was a point in time where Ben's having me run the rack, and I think I'm at like 10 pounds, and I can't even do a leg extension anymore. And he's like, again. I'm like, I can't lift it. He's like, no, I'll lift it for you. You're just gonna have to hold it down. And I'm like, I can't hold it down either. And so I just like literally crawled away from it with the pendulum stuff. But to see where I remember you sent me that video a few months ago around my deadlift when I was at 135, and it's at that point I was still relatively lean, and I was just this like lengthy, non-muscular, awkward, giraffe-looking dude. And seeing there to where I'm at today and the progress, it just, you reflect back at the times where you're just starting off and you're learning all this, but I'm still just starting off and learning all this as well. I just switched to which I'll recommend these now. I hate straps. I've always hated straps. I've always prided myself on having extremely really good grip strength, and I've focused on my grip strength a lot. But now that I'm pushing over the 500s, my grip strength is starting to become a problem, especially if I'm doing like 505 or 525 or 535, 555, 755, 955, 10,000. I'm just kidding. But my grip strength started to become a problem, and I always hate straps. And so when I wear straps, it messes me up. I don't feel like I can lift right, so I just completely scrap straps my entire time. And I just found these figure 8 straps, which basically they're just like 2 loops. And one of them goes around your wrist, the other one goes around the bar, and then it hooks back into your wrist. So you actually, obviously have to make sure that the bar is completely down before you can actually remove it. So it locks those into place, but it's such a loose fit on your wrist that it doesn't feel like it's like ripping your wrist off. And I've really enjoyed the figure 8 straps. I got the Cobra Grips figure 8 straps. Don't get the Cobra Grip ones that are like a flap, but it's an actual, it looks like a figure 8 or two basically straps hooked together. But I really enjoy those. But again, it's a learning lesson for me, right? I'm learning something new all the time. The feedback you gave me on my squats, where I'm looking at, allowed me to kind of focus where I'm at on the floor. We're always improving what we're doing from a efficiency perspective, getting better with different things. I've just recently switched to doing traditional barbell back squats because I was always using Smith machines, but I want to get better with my stabilizer muscles, and form is looking really good there. It's been a good journey there. My sumo is going to be my major lift. So
first thing in the gym, right? We're going to do deadlifts, like perfect. The thing that you've been focused on for the past few years.
That's right. That's right.
I never do.
And I PR'd.
Thank you so much.
I PR'd there. But it's just we're always trying to get better with our journeys, and I think that's the cool part about this group is that everybody has different levels of experience. Adam from a powerlifting perspective, myself from being here for 3 years and kind of seeing the place grow. Kev, Cody, Todd kind of being and Boyd and Jason being kind of the seniors of the group, of the teams, kind of helping people out. So again, awesome community you built, dude. You should be really proud of what you're doing, and I can't wait for the next one.
Which is not that far away.
Not that far away.
I think, just to sort of wrap up this conversation, the thing that I've sort of decided to do is host a standalone event probably twice a year. I know you said once a year, but probably just twice a year. That people come to that place for that event, and then every so often, off the back of something else that's happening in a specific city or state or country or whatever, host like a slightly smaller event, because I do think that there's a lot to be said for the people actually just getting together. And I definitely notice a change, even on today's call with the Hacks Group, noticing the change in the people who were there and how they were able to share and sort of communicate, and there's just an ever so subtle difference in people. So I want to make sure that they're open and they're available to everybody to go to at some point. I'm not saying that you need to attend them all. Shout out to Tyler. I think he's the only person that's been to them all. Yeah. He was here, and then he was in Nashville, and then he was in Munich. So he's now I feel the pressure of having to go to them all.
Yeah.
But for me, it's cool, like I said, to sort of see it grow, and it's cool to sort of, even I was talking to Todd, and I was talking to Daniel. Daniel was here at the first one. Obviously, he was in Nashville, so was Todd, and then just been it's just so cool to see it grow into something. It's cool to see people go through that same sort of process, and I guess it's cool for them to see me go through the process of actually growing and building something out.
Yeah. Well, you're the family, the group, the team, everything has just expanded and grown, and you've been able to scale that very well without having any type of degradation of it's amazing. You are very, very organized. I am not very, very organized. But, we run 2 successful businesses, and the ways that we do things are very, very drastically different. And, you're very methodical in how you handle things, and you get your stuff done. And it's almost like I think when I talk to you, it's like you're not going to let that person down by slacking off, right? So like you would do check-ins for 30 hours straight if you had to, if that's what you need to do to get your stuff done, right? And I think that's the thing about when I first found you that I'm so thankful for, because I've talked about this story before, but this is a last-ditch effort for me finding a personal trainer, right? And if I would have found just a total shit personal trainer or a commodity one online that wasn't going to give you anything that you needed to, I was screwed, right? And then that would have been it for me. I would have pretty much given up, and I probably would never have tried again. I just would have been, low energy, overweight Dave, and that would have been me. But the thing with you is you care, right? And you care about every single person that comes aboard, and you make sure it's driven into your DNA that they get the best possible thing that they can when they sign up, and that you will give them everything, and you expect them to give everything as well.
That's
It's
exactly
a mutual,
what it is.
right?
There's expectations on both sides. Like, I know for a lot, I've seen this, and actually one of my first ever clients admitted this to me. He was like, he sort of had the thought that because he had paid me that was the work done. I mean, he didn't actually have to do the work. So there's definitely the expectation.
I mean, it just doesn't magically
yeah,
transfer.
like
Shit, I
there's
wish
a
I could
line
do
here,
that.
change straight away.
Here's a pill.
Yeah. But for me, it's like, you and everybody else, like, they're invested in me in terms of financially and time, and like for me, I want to make sure that they get whatever it is that they've come from, or come for. So like I will say, I probably give myself a lot more credit of what I can actually achieve when I host one of these events, and everybody was very understanding whenever I wasn't like as quick to respond to things, or even sending check-ins like, I know you're busy, like, don't worry, rush up. But I always obviously caught up with them, but everybody's very understanding on that side as well. And I think that's another cool part of the relationships you build with people. Like, they understand that I have 25 people to manage for 5 days, and I might not maybe respond within the hour like I usually do. So being able to see that, and I'm thankful that they are like that, because it's less pressure on me, beyond the pressure that I put myself. So just being able to keep up with everybody, and as I said, like, I want them to know that I'm invested in them as much as they're invested in me, and it's not essentially about me. It's about their progress and their journey and their success.
And that's true and throughout. I mean, I don't think there's a time in my entire time I've known you for 3 years where if I haven't reached out to you, especially if it's a thing that it's a need, that you're not immediately responding back to me or helping out. I mean, it's just
Even before we were friends.
Even before we're friends. I mean, it's just incredible, that I found you, and that these other folks are finding you too. And it's funny because Erin is like the opposite of me in the sense that if she finds something good, she doesn't want everybody to know about it, because then everybody uses it and then it becomes crummy. And so she's like, don't tell everybody about Ben, because then everybody's going to go to Ben, and then then you're not going to get as much get as much out of it. I'm like, that's not how I work. Like, I share everything, and if it doesn't, it's not. But obviously it hasn't. But it's one of those things where I'm like, I'm glad other people have been able to find you as well, and to have that transformation, because it's life changing. And these are the things that you look back on, and I can you can see it from Kev, Jason, everybody else's. They're thankful to me, and I appreciate that, because I was able to introduce you to a lot of the folks there. But at the end of the day, they're changing their lives, right? I mean, they're happier, they're more energetic, they're a better father, a better husband, a better person at work. They're more efficient, their mental capacity is better. But we all go through struggles, but we're all there as an ecosystem, and they know that you're part of that is awesome. And by the way, I'm not saying I have any credit in it whatsoever. It's all you and what you've been able to build with the community, but to be a part of that, and to be something better than something than just a transactional thing is really cool. And I'm just happy to be part of this group, the folks that we have, and they're helping other people, they're bringing other people in.
I think that's the biggest shift that I've seen. Like, obviously initially, people came because they saw your transformation, and then now other people are having transformations, and it's like almost difficult for people to avoid it. They can't be like, well, it's okay for him or it's okay for that person. It's like they're happening time and time again, or not even the physical transformation, like just people talking about it and seeing it time and time again. Like, I've had plenty of calls, people like, I just can't avoid your name or the hashtag or the podcast. I'm like, good. Like, that's what we want. And I sort of had again, whenever I was sort of trying to think, chatting back and forth just to a couple of people on the last day, and then when I was trying to think in the airport, I was like, this is like the scale on this is now to the point where it's like it's bigger than I am. It's not just about me. It's like, how can all of these people within the community help the other people, and how does it continue to expand like that? And I know for a fact that people have told me in a couple of conversations that I had in my nice little office that I had in the Airbnb. Everybody's so thankful for what I've given them that they are willing to do whatever they can to allow it to continue to be a success. And that, to me is, I can't thank everybody enough for that, to sort of see, like, they're willing to do testimonials, like record rams with the fire. On the last day we were doing the 30 minutes, I just put it together like a finisher. And it was like 3 10-minute stations, and it was like air bike, prowler. I was on the prowler, the ropes, like med ball slams, like just really brutal stuff to finish off. And I could see Rand coming out with the camera and a microphone, like, how do you feel? And people were like hanging over it. I'm like, at least he's getting the best bits. But everybody's willing to, share their experiences, and, a lot of stuff on Twitter, a lot of stuff within the Discord, a lot of private messages. Like, I'm just thankful for everybody in terms of like what they're doing, in terms of like spreading the message.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, you got to, in changing topics here and kind of getting to our next one, but last thing I'll say about that, amazingly successful event, at least from what I saw from it and what everybody else has said from it, but I'm looking forward to the next time, and I definitely have some FOMO for missing out the whole thing there, but overall really good time. But you got to experience a true American family dinner yesterday with my dad, so I brought you over for that, and my dad told some old war stories, not war stories, but partying in Pink Floyd and a few other ones. But
I don't feel like we got the full story.
You did not, because my kids were there. Yes,
yes. There was definitely hints that I was able to pick up on.
Yes. We don't need to go into that podcast either, but
maybe we should bring them on.
Yeah. I don't want to tell them my baby stories, but the funny one was my kids were there. It was my dad was talking about when I was young, and I got in a car, and I'd asked my dad. I was like, "Hey, Dad, can I go visit my buddies in Perrysburg?" Because I used to come from Perrysburg, which is like a 2-hour drive from here. And I just got my license. I was like, just got 16. And my dad's like, "Not yet, dude. Just like chill for a little bit. Just learn how to drive. 2 hours is a pretty far, journey for a 16-year-old." He's like, I'm like, "Cool. Is it okay if I go to the mall then?" And he's like, "Yeah, you can go to the mall. I'm fine with that." So I drove to Perrysburg and go visit my buddies all day, and I came back. So I was such an a-hole as a kid. But it was good times, and I'm glad you're here. And we're going to be doing some Cedar Point tomorrow. Tonight we're going to blow up some fireworks. So
yes,
I got some really large, the most maximum capacity fireworks you could possibly purchase. And we're going to do some America here today for Memorial Day. And then Wednesday we'll hang out. But really appreciate everything you do, and what you do for the community and the people. It's absolutely impactful. But I wanted to get into a topic before we wrap up the podcast in the next 20 minutes or so, which is there's a lot of debate on protein intake, which it's one of the things that I almost run into, I would say, at least on a weekly basis. And this comes from a lot of just bro science, what people have talked about before in the past, and also conflicting studies that have been out there before in the past. And so what we're talking about is what's the maximum amount of protein that you can eat in one sitting. And why this is particularly important is if you look at folks that do like intermittent fasting, for example, where they have feeding windows where you can only eat for 4, 8, 12 hours, protein goals are by far the most important thing that we can do, regardless of what our journey is. If it's endurance and strength, strength training, resistance training, if it's cardiovascular, you're still building muscle. Protein should be the number one focus of the type of food that you're eating, right? And obviously, carbohydrates from an energy production perspective, and fats for, general relative overall health and greasing of the wheels, if you want to say, for your body. And I think that the big misnomer is there's always been a stipulation that you can only eat like 25 to 30 grams of protein per sitting that your body can basically ingest, and then after that you're pretty much screwed and just kind of magically disappears into the ethers. And one of the things that has been shown time and time out is that understanding how much protein your body can use from an anabolic response perspective, i.e. protein synthesis, is a very difficult thing to determine from a scientific research perspective. They've tried and they continue to come out with new studies and ranges, but the truth is that if you eat 100 grams of protein, your body will use 100 grams of protein. Now, there are efficiency things that come into place, like, for example, the anabolic component around mTOR processing and protein synthesis seems to be around 30 to 50 grams per sitting. But there's also the overall body composition, skeletal muscle strength, all those other things that play into not just specifically muscle growth, but also your overall growth of your whole body from a protein perspective, and that doesn't have a cap on it. So if you eat 100 grams of protein in one sitting, your body will use all 100 grams of protein per sitting. So there's no cap or limit. Now, there's been a lot of research out lately around intermittent fasting, and there's definitely a lack of if you're shaving the amount of protein you're getting spaced out throughout the day, it can definitely impact the amount of protein synthesis or your ability to build muscle if you're not getting those in, kind of spread out through the day. So the recommendation is, we'll talk a little bit more about this, but the recommendation is, I would say, 30 to 50 grams of protein at minimally per meal, spaced out through the day to hit your protein goals as you go through. And there are a lot of good studies on when the best time to eat protein is, and that is primarily tied to your circadian rhythm, which is your body's basically your body's internal clock. So when you wake up in the morning, you're kicking off the day. If you listen to Huberman, you stare at the sky for 10 minutes, and it kicks in the dopamine processes, kind of wakes you up. You wait an hour before you have caffeine, which I definitely don't wait an hour before I get caffeine.
One thing I noticed in the Airbnb, there's not a lot of people that do wait an hour.
No,
straight away, like
the
first thing they go to. I definitely do.
You wait an hour?
I wait like 3.
If I'm weightlifting, if I'm doing resistance training, I do wait an hour. But if I'm doing Orange Theory, I'm already waking up at like 5:30 in the morning. I don't have time for it.
Earlier.
I get up at 4:30 in the morning. Get out of here.
Jocko
Man,
would
crazy. Jocko would do it. But it's tied to our circadian rhythm, and it does appear that the maximum amount of protein synthesis does occur in the morning time frames. And when you think about it, your body's actually in a catabolic state where it's eating away your muscles. So you need to stop that process as soon as possible. So I usually recommend first thing in the morning, get your pre in, but also start, drinking some essential amino acids to stop that catabolic process. And then from there, when you're finished with your training, if it's in the morning, you have a very protein-rich or protein-centric breakfast to really maximize the amount of protein synthesis and muscle gain throughout the day. And then from there, spacing out the rest of your protein. So I usually try to get, anywhere between minimally 50 grams of protein to 80 to 100 grams of protein in the morning. And then from there, I space out the rest of my protein for my macros throughout the rest of the day, which is roughly around, 240 grams of protein for as you go. But, for me, getting protein in the morning is extremely important, and especially after resistance training. Now, there are some studies that say that your window, so everybody's talked about the protein window of resistance training.
Window.
Yeah, it has to be, 47.17 seconds
after
you've been training.
Bicep curl.
The truth of the matter is that, they've done studies, and it could be anywhere from 3 to 5 hours for that window, basically. But usually having a good protein-centric thing, along with carbohydrates, is extremely important. So you want to replenish your glycogen stores, boost your energy up after you've done a really intense workout. And those are all important things that you want to do. So I usually do a lot of carbohydrates, a lot of protein, and a mixture of fats as I'm going through and eating after those. But there is no magic number. It isn't 30 grams. It isn't 50 grams. It isn't 100 grams. Your body will absorb everything. But spacing out through your day does appear to have a much more larger impact on muscle hypertrophy and growth. So if you're getting 50 grams of protein per sitting of meals, you're looking pretty solid right there.
I think a couple of points. Number one, the blanket statement of you can only consume or digest or absorb 25 grams of protein per sitting. A couple of things about that. Number one, who, most importantly. So is it me when I was 150 pounds or me now when I'm 220 pounds? Like, surely there's a difference in that.
Yeah.
Number two, what type of protein? Because if I have a protein shake, my body's going to pretty much digest and absorb that pretty much right away.
And it's been shown whey isolate is by far the easiest for your body to digest very quickly. So just that FYI there, from a quick hit protein, body's ability to do it, whey protein seems to be the easiest.
But yeah, so if I have a protein shake and a steak, it's going to take much longer for my body to process and digest the steak.
Over time too, by the way.
Yeah. So, like, what source of protein, essentially?
And same thing for casein. The ability to by the way, it's casein, I guess. I heard Dr. Lane Norton say it's casein, so I thought it was casein, but I guess it's casein. It's casein.
I'm still going to say casein.
I'm going to say casein probably too, but
anyway.
Slower process of digestion there.
Yeah. The other thing is, like, I'm going to say, obviously, to a point, your body will function better with more protein. As soon as you...
Fuller, too.
Yeah,
for a long period of time, right?
Yeah. You will know your upper limit when you hit it. Like, whenever I used to train with Callum, essentially we used to do 6 meals of 40 grams protein per day. Whenever we were increasing food, we tried to do 6 meals of 50 grams, that was too much. My body just thought, what's that, 300 grams? My body just, you will know that that's too much. So understanding what your limits are with that, but trying to get that in is obviously quite difficult across the day. But again, it will sort of digest and process at different times. The other thing is, to go back to the anabolic window thing, time-wise, realistically, it probably doesn't have a huge impact. But again, as I've said time and time again, I'll always favor a shake pretty much right away, or as close to training as possible. Again, from a digestion perspective, it's much easier to process and digest. If you think about whenever you train arms, for example, all the blood is flowing in your arms. That's why you've got the pump, and that's why you feel great. There's not much blood left in your digestive system to process that. So a shake will it's obviously pretty readily available. So being able to get that in, it will definitely help. And the other thing, if you think about the process of digesting food, so if you've ever had the meat sweats because you've eaten too much meat.
I have absolutely done that many times.
Yes. So essentially that's your body working harder to process and digest the food. It's burning more calories, so we've talked about it again. Anywhere between 20 and 30% of the calories that you consume from protein are actually used in the digestion process. So all of these things sort of veer us to the point of why protein is so important. But like you said, if you consume 100, 200, whatever grams of protein, eventually your body will process it and utilize it.
Yeah, I think so. So there's a lot of good studies on this. There's a really good video breakdown with Jeff Nippard, who's a bodybuilder. The person that actually taught.
That's funny. There's a couple of comments over the week, like, do we like that person? Do we like that person?
Yeah.
Us as a collective, do we like Jeff Nippard or not? Or this person, do we like them or no?
Yeah.
But yes, Jeff Nippard's good.
Nippard's really good. The way he breaks down things and also brings in the research for it, I think is really awesome. But he was actually a disciple of Dr. Lee Norton. Dr. Lee Norton trained Jeff Nippard and what he knows from a research perspective. And Dr. Lee Norton's one of the leading researchers on muscle fitness, resistance training, its impact to longevity. He's got a lot of great peer-reviewed studies put into place. But he's also a firecracker online. That guy just gives two shits about anything. he will call people out for their bullshit and not be. He's hilarious
ballsy,
to listen to.
It's ballsy.
He's very ballsy.
It shows the confidence he has in the research.
Yes.
And the thing that I like about it too,
he's like, I don't care what you think, that's your feelings. He's like, this is what the science says, so shut the hell up. I'm like, I like this dude.
Yeah. But also, on the other side of that, he is okay with changing his mind. Do you know what I mean?
And he has changed his mind over time.
If new studies come out or somebody else that he looks up to or a peer or whatever, challenges him and they turn, he's not no, this is it and that's it. He will go by what the science says, hands down.
So if you listened to him before in a few of the podcasts, there's one I listened to on Mind Pump. It was from a few years ago. It was 2000 or 2020. And he was shit drunk he was hammered by the end of the podcast. It was a 3-hour podcast and he was whiskeys in. And
we not do a drunk podcast?
Huh?
We not do a drunk podcast?
We should. We probably should start drinking podcasts. But it's incredible here. His stances on food has actually changed. So he used to think, that the leading cause of obesity was due to the amount of sugars that we're basically placing into our bodies, right? And he's come to realize it's a lot of. Sugar's a part of it, but at the end of the day, and again, the science shows this. So anybody else that's saying anything else is totally full of shit. It's calories in versus calories out. That's how our bodies work. There's no other. There's variances to that. It's not as simple as that. I have to
always do the caveat.
Yeah, it's not as simple as that, but there are, certain things have more thermogenic effects, and you have dietary fibers and things. But at the end of the day, in a simplistic form, if we eat less calories than we burn from an energy expenditure perspective, we will lose weight. If we eat more calories than we burn, we will gain weight in some way, shape, or form. There's no other ways around it. It just doesn't work any differently, and that's how our bodies work. But and Dr. Lane Norton is actually one of the ones that really pushed and really came out with the flexible eating stuff. That listen, if I want to eat a cupcake every single day, as long as it fits into my calorie intake, who cares? If it's as long as I'm hitting my protein goals that I want to, everything else is up in the air. So if I just want to take 4 protein shakes and that's all I eat, and then the rest of it is Snickers bars and cupcakes, it's perfectly fine. Now, again, you're probably gonna feel like shit because you're not eating good quality whole foods, but it's gonna work from a building perspective. And he's been a huge advocate of that. So if you look at him, he's a power lifter. The dude deadlifts 700 pounds, natural, by the way. He's incredible. He does all the natural powerlifting competitions and everything else. And the guy's just, he eats whatever the hell he wants to. He shows it his meals. He's eating French fries and burgers and whatever he wants to. But, again, it's within a finite limit. So, but his stances have changed over time. And what I was getting at with that, though, is, with what we're talking about here on the protein goals, Dr. Lane Norton had a really good breakdown of it, where he named another doctor. I want to say it's Dr. Scott, who's one of the leading researchers on protein intake and how our bodies use protein in our bodies for protein synthesis. And basically explained exactly what we're talking about is that we think roughly 30 to 50 is kind of the anabolic stuff, but it's so hard to judge. There was a study that actually came out in South Korea that showed that there was two sample groups. One was basically given 30 grams of protein spaced out over time. Another one was given 70 grams of protein spaced out over time. And the ones that had 70 grams of protein per day had a substantially higher anabolic response to that, which produced more muscle mass. So is it 70? Is it 50? Is it 30?
Protein, one thing, I can't remember where I heard it. Eating protein, the process of eating protein itself is anabolic.
Yeah.
Like if you just eat protein, not just eat protein, but eating protein on a very minuscule scale will force your body to build muscle.
Yes.
Fucking right, I'm in. Sign me up.
And if you think about the breakdowns of what we struggle with as human beings, it's fat, right? We don't want to have a ton of fat. The conversion ratio from carbohydrates and fats are very high, right? Which meaning, fat's a 1-to-1 store and carbohydrates is like a 2-to-1, like it's a very small, most amount of carbs you're gonna eat is pretty much gonna turn into fat. If you eat fat, it's gonna turn into fat if you don't use it, right? With protein, it's actually very difficult for your body to take protein and convert it back into fat. So it's a very small percentage of that ratio. So if you think about it, more protein you eat throughout the day, the fuller you feel, the more muscle you gain, and the less fat you store. Like, there's just a win situation all across the board there for what you do. And there's a lot of bullshit on the amount of impact it has on your liver and stuff like that. Listen, I go to the doctor every quarter, and again, I know I'm just one person out of many, but I eat a shit ton of protein all day long. My liver and kidneys are functioning at a nominal rate, the best I've ever had. But
let me tell you, if
creatine
protein is my issue when it comes to my liver, shout out to myself that used to drink fucking 30 Jaeger bombs every night, 5 nights a week. Like, I did not have a concern about protein intake being a problem for my liver whatsoever.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of these misnomers need to be removed from this industry, because it's giving people a disservice to what's happening. And I will disagree with Ben on one thing. Anyways, never mind. Sorry, guys, we're going to take off the podcast now. No, the one thing I will say is I try to get as much whole foods as I can, but if there's days where I'm just having total shit, I'll just drink protein shakes to maximize that. So I'll drink 2, 3, 4 protein shakes if I have to hit those goals, especially if I'm traveling or I'm doing other things. I don't try to make it a habit of it, but sometimes there's days where I have 3 protein shakes just to make sure I hit the goals, because I'm just in a crazy bind situation-wise and everything else. So, get your protein however you can. It doesn't matter where the sources are coming from. At the end of the day, if you stick to the rule, the 80-20 or the 70-30, type of whole foods to, processed foods, I think that's a good way to live your life. But, you want to think about what you're eating, how you're eating it, but the amount of protein doesn't make a difference of what you're eating. Get your protein goals whenever you can.
Yeah, and I think to go back to what you're saying about the
27.53 grams is the max.
Going back to being able to eat whatever you want, like I'll go back to what Helmy said, the total amount of calories that you consume will dictate your weight. So you will gain or lose weight based on the amount of calories. The macro breakdown, like the quality of the foods, will dictate your body composition. So if you and I right now started at 220 pounds and both ate 3,000 calories, and I ate 3,000 calories of really good whole clean foods, and you ate 3,000 calories of Snicker bars and burgers, I'm going to be in better body composition because my body's going to utilize it that little bit better. So understanding that yes, okay, you can do these things to an extent, and being able to sort of balance them out is probably the best way to do it. And one last thing that I listened to a brief podcast earlier on, and the girl on the podcast was talking about tracking your food. And I realised that this is a big grip for a lot of people, and people don't want to do it forever and blah 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 whatever. And she sort of gave a good perspective on it. She was like, if you want to improve your finances, you track your spending, you track your income. It's exactly the same as that. Yeah. It's just tracking a metric to improve the thing that you want to do. So get over the fact of tracking your food. Use it as a tool versus it being a headache.
Yeah.
And it'll give you a bit of an idea as to sort of where you can move. I think I thought it was a good perspective.
Yeah. Well, that's it for this episode of the podcast. In person, coming at you. I thought it was really good. By the way, I'm going to order one of these DJI things. You were using these little DJI mics, which is really cool. I was going to, but you're not right here, so I don't really have a good access to hit Amazon. But these DJI mics are freaking incredible. But no, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Listen, for the folks that were at the event in Denver, I just want to apologize, obviously, for not being actively involved. I missed y'all. Wish I could be there. But it was really awesome the time that I did spend to see all that happen. Came out of it very energized, and we're definitely going to go get a push day coming in here in a little bit to get stuff going.
Yeah, and I just want to say thanks again to everybody. I think I did thank everybody, but I realize that it's, a week, 5 days away from family, away from work. Like, I realize it's a big commitment to come and fucking hang out with a random stranger from the internet in a compound ranch in the middle of Colorado Springs. I think one last thing that I'll say is I always ask people like how they describe what they're going to. Like, what do you say you're going? And Kyle says that his wife, whenever he was leaving, was like, have fun at lifting camp. So I think we and it will be branded as lifting camp.
It's funny, Aaron the same way. I was like, Aaron, listen, can I go to this Denver thing that it's basically a bunch of guys and there are women too, obviously, getting together in this compound where we're basically going to go lift and hang out as a bunch. He's like, well, I mean, other guy folks, go out and do golfing with their buddies or whatever else. We're just going to go hit different gyms. And it's funny because like the ER person was like, why are you coming to Denver? I'm like, a bunch of our buddies get together and we go lift at different gyms and stuff. And she's like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. Like, I'm like, yeah, see, it's not bad. It's not that usual. But no, I had a really great time, and shout out to that. Last thing I'll say, today is Monday, May 29th, Memorial Day, and just, special reflection on, the soldiers and service members that gave the ultimate sacrifice and duty of our country. Big deal here in the United States. We've obviously been through a substantial amount of wars throughout the years, and I've lost a lot of my friends in combat when I was overseas in Iraq. And so ultimate sacrifice, special thank you to their families that suffer every time you have to go through this day. And they're always in our hearts and our minds, and truly thankful that I'm here today because of them. So thank you all so much for listening to the podcast today, and we'll catch you all next week.